Issue 268 Reboot. I assumed that this issue would start off where the previous story left off, with the heroes planning on entering the fighting tournament for the Emerald. But of course not, that keeps things simple. So instead we see Sonic in the past, running up a slanted floor in underground zone with coconuts in the Eggmobile above him. And I don't know why he thinks Eggman would ever give him a promotion, for any reason. He's just a robot. And Sonic's being threatened by the Antlion boss from Sonic 2 8-Bit. While it's always better to reference a more obscure, underappreciated game than a famous one, especially because it's more likely to seem new to somebody, this is still lazy writing. The only new part of this is that Coconut's in the Eggmobile throwing bombs at him here, in particular. Nothing about this is actually new. Sonic's got green eyes in the classic era, but he looks better that way, and it makes more logical sense than his eyes changing color over time with age anyways. Besides, he still looks chubby here. So, what was that about there being a mandate that the classic and modern design can't be combined? He doesn't look skinny at all here. And this is portraying Sonic as being in the classic era when he was younger. That's another supposed mandate being broken. It's almost as if Flynn's able to write basically whatever he wants. Well, at least it's creative that Sonic kicked one of the balls sent to him over to Coconuts. Even if Coconuts looks horrible in that panel with his head all stretched out. And it's amusing that Sonic shouts goal as it explodes. But reusing a plot and just adding new things to it is just an overly easy way to make the writing look more original and creative than it actually is, considering it's just reusing a familiar plot and plot points. I've already experienced what the series is like when entire plots are original. So I know that's more creative and impressive than this cheap, lazy shortcut to look creative. If this was by any other writer than Flynn, like a writer of AOSCH, it would be completely new. Why are we starting out in a flashback completely unrelated to the present? All we needed was one line to establish for the people too ignorant to know who Coconuts is that Coconuts used to work for Eggman. That's all you needed. If I was just gonna see Coconuts put in a familiar plot where he wasn't, that's not original and creative enough to justify seeing a flashback. If it's so lazily written, that's not really providing a new experience. Sonic could have kicked the bomb back at the Antlion machine instead for all it mattered. Coconut's somehow still functioning afterwards, and Lampshade says it's like he's living in a bad comedy because he was beaten so easily. I'm tempted to snark that this means the writer knows the jokes in the reboot are bad, but that requires self-awareness from him. So I think it's just that Coconut thinks this wasn't funny because he was the victim of it, which would make sense. Seriously, we didn't need to see this. It would have made sense if he took the simple, predictable approach and ended the flashback there, because of course he'd have been knocked out by the explosion. Then we see Breezy with Scratch and Grounder plotting against Sonic, so it was about Breezy all along. But Scratch and Grounder are the only ones among them who have text boxes telling the complete newbies who they are. The previous scene was completely removable. It would have made more sense to start here than there, because it would have led off from the fact that the previous story ended with Breezy in it. We didn't need to know who Coconuts was. On the bright side, Breezy doesn't look quite as horrible as she did in AOSCH. But her design's still overdone like an overexcited kid colored a Sonic OC too much, as you can tell by her hair not just sticking to one shade of blue. At least when Lara Sue had pink and red hair, I could see why, because she had Julie and Knuckles' hair colors, even if that's clearly not how genetics are supposed to work. But I could at least understand the meta logic behind why she was designed like that, to make it obvious to the audience what she's supposed to be. I thought she was a literal combination of Knuckles and Julie, so that didn't work out because that was the other potential conclusion. At least Breezy doesn't have that problem. There's no reason she looks like this. Both of them can be assumed to have simply dyed their hair. But the point is, Breezy didn't have to get so completely redesigned that she looks unrecognizable, and therefore this kind of fails as a callback. I think the main problem with AOSCH was that her skin was green, and it looked like she had a Homer Simpson muzzle. But that could have easily been gotten rid of. She could have just had dark blue hair and that was it, instead of looking over-designed. Look at how big her eyes are here. They almost cover her face. She should have eyes looking like Sonic's though. I guess that's the necessary change to make her not look awful anymore. Some redesign was necessary, but still. This has the same problem as Amy's modern design, where nobody could tell she was supposed to be a hedgehog. Not even me when I was a kid. But to be fair, she's not actually a hedgehog anyways. It wouldn't matter if she was or not in the plot. So she's under no obligation to look like one. She just has the generic Mobian art style shape that could be any species that is shared between so many civilians that eventually I realized Fleetway did things better. Even characters looking just like normal animals with cartoon eyes is still better looking than being bad OCs, which is just distracting. I think the problem is that they're trying too hard to make them look special when they have the same basic art style as the most important Sonic characters. And having two hair colors makes that really obvious. It's trying to grab your attention right away. All the civilians in Archie try to look like they'd be main characters. It makes logical sense in this world, but I think I'd rather have only some civilians fit the Sonic art style so we could have some actual variety to look at. It's already a magical world full of talking animals. I can buy that they wouldn't all fit the same exact art style that's become more associated with DeviantArt than Sonic at this point. I wasn't talking about the story because it's literally the same thing as an AOSCH. She asked Sonic for protection, and, then it cuts to the present day, with Sonic and Tails telling Amy that Breezy was working for Eggman from the beginning. Why aren't they telling us she was a robot with a phone in her chest? But I guess we're supposed to already know that. But you'd only know that from watching LSDH. First, the story was trying to catch newbies up the entire time on who Breezy was, to the point of assuming they didn't know who Scratch and Grounder were when it was self-explanatory. And then it abruptly ended, without even showing a quick montage of panels with no dialogue, showing Breezy luring Sonic into a trap, and revealing what she really is. The writer reusing an idea that wasn't his wouldn't be a problem if he clearly explained it again to the people unfamiliar with it. But he was too lazy to even do that, not even by the characters actually telling you what you weren't shown, which would be just fine. Also, I guess he had permission to use any AOSH character he wanted, even ones not grandfathered in from Archie. Which makes me wonder why they won't show up in anything beyond Archie if it's that easy. Like the games, for example. Because the comic was an adaptation of SADM, but it still had AOSCH characters in it just fine, even from issue 3. I can understand why a character from AOSCH was introduced to the comic, because it's more refreshing than a SADM character showing up, since the only AOSCH characters in the Sonic comics published by Archie before this were the SSS Squad. It still makes it obvious that he prefers AOSCH a little, though, since he could have brought an interesting character like the Wizard Lazar with his crystal computer. Breezy is a combination of a cliche in the form of a pretty woman charming the hero into danger, and the infiltrator robot idea that was used in Archie and the Terminator and SADM. So she's actually not original at all. She just seems to be because she's a female villain who's on Eggman's side who tries to use her feminine charms. That sounds like Rouge, though. But Rouge barely flirts with anyone in the actual series. Well, it's Breezy's whole plan. Reportedly, Flynn didn't like either show because AOSCH didn't make sense. Ken Pender said in an interview that he didn't think the silly tone of AOSCH fit Archie Sonic. So if they both have the same problems with the show, I wouldn't be surprised because it'd just be another thing the writers had in common, out of 3 dozen. But I agree, AOSCH makes no sense. SADM's original characters beyond the main cast were usually bland and boring, but didn't outright suck, because they weren't horribly annoying with awful voices, like Coconuts for example. Breezy was annoying the whole episode she was in, and made it bad for me as a result. But at least she fit a role no other character in Sonic has, because she actually flirted with the hero to trick them into getting into danger all the time. The point is, she's obviously not going to do that again. She's in a different position in life now. So what's the point? What's the actual point of bringing Breezy back if not only will she look nothing like Breezy, but she won't be written to do the one thing she's famous for? Not even once. It is more creative to have her do new things, but if you never have her do the old thing even once, it just makes it obvious that this new character didn't need to be Breezy. It would actually make a lot more sense if it wasn't supposed to be Breezy. I wouldn't be questioning how she was ever allowed to throw a fighting tournament when everyone should know she's one of Eggman's infiltrator robots. Wouldn't the heroes warn everyone that she's loose and this is what she looks like? I think bringing her back would be worth it. It's just that it might as well not be Breezy at all. Maybe it will matter, we'll see. I know about one plot point with her that comes later, but I don't think it makes sense anyways. Tails didn't hate Breezy anymore the next time he saw her in AOSCH, because Breezy changed her mind and saved Sonic because he gave her a love poem. It makes sense that Tails would still be mad at her, but it just makes it needlessly confusing to have the Archie version of her still be evil and not show how things happen differently to justify it. Like, why not show it right away and cut out the padding in this issue? It makes more logical sense that she'd be evil than her becoming good because she read a poem when she should have been used to Sonic being nice to her. But then we should have seen how the plot changed instead of the flashback ending right before it could go in a creative new direction. The writer would rather not show that, because to make a fantastic story, that required thinking up a creative new story. But apparently, he doesn't have to. Why is she still not working for Eggman if she didn't stop being evil? Wouldn't he keep hiring her? You need to explain that fast! Otherwise, it's a giant plot hole. I say she's still evil because she obviously would have given Sonic the Emerald if she wasn't evil. It's not using Breezy correctly if you completely ignore the character development she had in her debut episode, which was a defining part of her character. At least this is another continuity, so he has somewhat of an excuse to ignore it because it's another universe where apparently it never happened. So it's not literally a Fiona situation, where we put the reset button on character improvement for no reason. If the writer thought to have Amy ask why they're just hearing about Sonic and Breezy now, he shouldn't have written it if he knew it was going to be that illogical. These are supposed to be Sonic's friends. You'd think he'd have told him about Breezy as basic conversation about how his day went. If not him, you'd think Tails would have. You'd think he would have let it slip at some point. Also, Tails doesn't look mad here. He looks like he's cringing. And he wouldn't look like that when he's mad. I didn't expect there to be so many things to complain about before the heroes even got out of the Sky Patrol. I figured they'd be at the tournament by now. Sonic could have just started the story saying he has to go to that tournament. And there'd be a text box reminding the newbies that Breezy had led Sonic into a trap for Eggman. But that's not even relevant to the story. Is it? She's not working for Eggman anymore. When it could have made sense, so she'd lure the heroes into a trap. So we didn't even need to know her backstory. It was just even more padding that clearly didn't need to be there at this point. If she was simply a sub-boss of Eggman's at this point, then it would make more sense that she'd be able to get away with offering an emerald, because she and him would be in cahoots, so she wouldn't be prosecuted because under Eggman's law, in Eggman's territory, she'd be allowed to offer the emerald. But having her still working for Eggman when she's evil in this continuity would apparently be too simple and easy to understand. Sonic at least has a very good point when he explains why he didn't tell his friends about his encounter with Breezy. He was too embarrassed to tell them about Breezy playing him for a fool. Sally explains that Breezy runs the largest entertainment network in the world. And she doesn't immediately explain why she ever got to this point, let alone got called Woman of the Year, when she's a robot who used to work for Eggman. Of course, if she wasn't one, it implied that Flynn either really didn't care, or somehow didn't know she was a robot. But yeah, her past would obviously get in the way of this, but apparently it didn't. Even though, sure, Sonic kept it all a secret. But that doesn't explain how Breezy would even get successful without a social security number, or education, or job experience, or any knowledge of how to make a resume. The kinds of things you need to get any kind of job to make an honest living. She wouldn't have been hired for anything. People would be questioning why she got what she has, if she got it without being qualified for it. And seriously, why are any of the screens of the heroes red tinted? Rotor is better than that. There's no explanation for how she'd have the knowledge and connections to end up running a large entertainment network so far. Sally doesn't even try to explain how this works. And what the crap, are you kidding me? Sally's just casually smiling while saying that a Chaos Emerald is being offered as a prize, and I waited for somebody to lampshade this, and nobody did. Everyone just stays quiet, and Sally tells the game characters to fight in the tournament. Not a single one of these idiots seems to realize that this kind of prize is illegal. That it'd be the equivalent of offering a nuclear bomb as a prize. That they should just demand the emerald from her, call the police on her, and they don't have to fight in a fighting tournament. These guys are such idiots. Sally says that she couldn't get people other than Sonic, Tails, and Amy on the roster because the cutoff for registration already passed. And Breezy would only concede to them specifically. The writer has Rotor ask why they don't just fucking take the emerald And he's having them fight in the tournament anyways! Why the fuck is this happening then? He knows it's stupid, a character knows it's stupid, but he's gonna write it anyways. Wouldn't it have made a bit more sense if Eggman was running the fighting tournament? I mean, it'd be an obvious trap, but they just fall for it anyways because they think that's the only way they could get the emerald. Like, wasn't that the plot of Sonic the Fighters itself? Who was running the fighting tournament in that game? I don't know, but Eggman would have made more sense than Breezy. Because he's always managing to avoid the law enforcement anyways, so he could offer an emerald. Tails is supposed to be just as smart as Rotor, so I figured even Rotor didn't realize this problem because Tails didn't question it at all. Why did it take this long? Why didn't Sally want to take the emerald? They could go to Breezy with a Sky Patrol and just force her to give it up by royal decree. Doesn't the king have any kind of authority at all? This is like her offering drugs as a prize. Like, if it falls into the wrong hands, it could cause serious trouble. How could it possibly be legal to have? It's like Sally forgets she has any kind of royal authority at all. So what's a completely idiotic excuse for this bullshit? It would keep things simple if the heroes were kidnapped by Eggman and forced to go to a fighting tournament. He could say that he's bored and sadistic and wants to see them fight for fun. But I guess it wouldn't make sense for him to not force them to fight to the death. Amy says that they don't do that because it looked like they would be stealing from Breezy, and she's not as bad as Eggman. Rotor points out that they'd be saving the world, and Sonic at least says he likes the direct route. Rotor shouldn't be literally the only one here with a brain, and he shouldn't be portrayed as less than pure good for that brain. Rotor should just completely ignore her. Hell, Rotor should be the leader now. Sally's revoked her right to that. I can't remember much of any times Reboot Rotor was an idiot, but I'd take Sally's smart plans for granted, and she doesn't look very smart here. If she was smart, she'd know that Breezy doesn't own the emerald. Amy's called right because Sally's a complete and utter moron whenever Flynn writes her. This is why Reboot Sally is usually impossible for me to take seriously. This is taking lawful stupid to the absolute extreme. She feels like even more of an idiot than the pre-boot Sally, but I'm coming to the reboot with even more knowledge of the writer's problems than I had in the pre-boot. I might have not started noticing how common stupidity is in Flynn's writing it. So it makes sense that I notice her as being stupid more in the reboot. Maybe she had the same problem before this. Sally says that if they act like they're above the law, they're only sowing trouble for themselves later. Breezy is not above the law! What the flying fuck? How does nobody realize that Breezy's breaking the law? It's okay to steal from a thief. It's called confiscating. Wouldn't it be immediately obvious to any writer that the laws of this world would have it that the only rightful owners of the Chaos Emeralds would be the Freedom Fighters or Gun? The Chaos Emerald is too dangerous for anyone to be allowed to have. Much less dangerous things have been illegal before. Sally says that she did offer to buy the emerald offer. So again, the writer thought of a simple solution, but she wouldn't sell it. How? Why in the world would she turn down free money? Wouldn't it be obvious Sally could offer her more money than she'd actually get from throwing the tournament? Fucking hell, the writer would go to any convoluted lengths to ignore the simple, predictable, and logical solution. Granted, the royal pockets would only be so deep. She should explain that she'd feel guilty using too much of the taxpayers' money on getting an emerald. Sally should have offered Breezy a fake emerald in exchange for the real one. That way, Breezy wouldn't be forced to turn her down since she already advertised an emerald, because she could use a fake and nobody would know the difference. Sonic wonders if Sally's father is cool with using the kingdom's treasury to bankroll the Freedom Fighters. Why is he even asking? Of course he is. He'd know this from experience. And yet, there's a sad attempt at a joke because Sally acts nervous and clears her throat. So, she's stealing from him and he doesn't know it? That doesn't make any sense at all for her character. She just said that stealing from Breezy would be wrong, even if for a good reason. And she's totally casual about stealing from her beloved father. For a good reason. How does Rotor even stand this team anymore? He's clearly above this. But I bet he'll be passive and do what Sally orders, making his complaining amount to nothing, and so it's the same as him being just as stupid as them, effectively. I'd love it if Rotor just took the emerald from Breezy. That'd make him actually smart. He could storm in with the ray gun. If Sally had a brain here, she'd know nobody would think the heroes were being evil for taking a Chaos Emerald from Breezy. because everyone already knows they're heroes and would naturally assume they should have the emerald. In fact, people should already be under the assumption that if anything can restore the world, it would be the Chaos Emerald. And I think most people would logically hate Breezy for hoarding the emerald. Logically, Breezy would be forced to give it to the heroes anyways from public pressure. People boycotting her TV channel. If the civilians had any kind of love for the heroes at all, they'd do that. This goes beyond publicity stunt. This would be a PR disaster. All the civilians would realize that she's just begging Eggman to come attack for the emerald. She's just announcing where the emerald is to Eggman this way. She's just taking the risk that someone who wins the emerald could give it to Eggman. Because it's not like at the same time she announces an emerald, she also announces that the freedom fighters are going to compete for it. And so then everyone would assume Sonic would win anyways, but even then they should still be annoyed that she's wasting their valuable time forcing them to fight in a fighting tournament for it, when they could be doing heroic things. This is the dumbest thing she could possibly do instead of giving it to the heroes. Doesn't she want the monsters to stop attacking? Like, what if one of the monsters attacked her? And I'm expected to keep taking Sally seriously as the brilliant leader, after she so casually decides to just humor Breezy, not issue a warrant out for her arrest. Yeah, Rotor should be the leader. Fuck this. Sonic's able to make smart plans too. Tails is a genius. We don't need this lawful stupid moron to be the leader. And that's supposed to be her only talent. And when Flint's writing her, she can't even do that right. Sure, she had a few smart plans, but at this point, I'm wondering why she had to be the only one coming up with them. And I expected good leadership from her. This is inexcusable. The heroes are above the law when it comes to the Chaos Emeralds. A fighting tournament on its own isn't an idea I hate. In fact, I love the idea. Even if it is padding compared to them doing heroic things and trying to reform the world. But a fighting tournament isn't a terrible idea for all of Sonic. Sonic's an action series, and there's a lot of characters I want to see smacked around. But any plot is aggravating if it only happens because the characters were all idiots, and there's clearly a smarter alternative for them. Here's why this whole fighting tournament for an emerald never would have happened. Not only is it too easy for her that Breezy even has this emerald, with no explanation for how she earned it properly as a villain, but there's no way in hell she would have been allowed to offer a Chaos Emerald for whoever would win the tournament, good or evil, let alone as a public prize. It's not like she's saying there's going to be background checks for whoever enters, so that no one who works for Eggman, no one who lives in the Eggman Empire could ever enter. This worked in Sonic X because it was the government's idea to have the tournament, specifically to try to lure Eggman into a trap. It was all a sham. I had the impression that because the government was on Sonic's side, they knew that the emerald should be with Sonic, so the emerald would have been given to the side of the heroes no matter who won. There's no way she would have been allowed to keep that prize. Gunn would have made her pay for it immediately. They'd send tanks, missiles, robots. She'd become public enemy number 1. They'd send as much of their army as they could to her that wasn't already busy, and completely destroy her Coliseum and shut down the tournament instantly. In fact, Shadow should be able to just run up to her and take it from her in seconds. All you'd need to know is where to go find her. Eggman would have sent a whole bunch of machines and robots after her the second he could have, instead of sending Bang, Bean, and Bark, and that's it. Sally's representative of the royalty. She would have demanded her to give her the emerald by royal decree, and it'd be illegal as shit for her to not hand it over. Rotor would attack her flying planes with the Sky Patrol and force her to give them the emerald. It would have been broadcast on the media as soon as Sally found out that she needs all of the emeralds to put the planet back together. That wouldn't be a secret, because announcing that would tell everyone that could like them, go give us the emerald if you happen to see it. If the writer knew it wasn't wise for her to do this, how in the world did she not get those consequences for it? It's frustrating because we aren't immediately told the answer to this question when it comes off as a really big plot hole immediately. She's being portrayed as right and indeed wise. This doesn't make any sort of sense. Why would the heroes bring her the Gaia manuscripts and show her Professor Pickle as proof and tell her that they need the emeralds to put the planet back together? Why would she want the planet to not be put back together as soon as possible when monsters keep attacking? Is she a sociopath? What would she have to gain in keeping the world separated? Why would she accuse the heroes of lying about that? Why didn't she just give them all the emerald right away? And she could have made something that only looks like a Chaos Emerald and offered that as a prize instead. That'd be just as valuable and effective, because people only like gems because they look good. Eggman wants the emerald from her too, and doesn't just ask, so it's not like she's working for him to lure the heroes into a trap. Which would make Eggman look smart. The king would pay up if it meant putting the planet back together. That's a pretty worthy way to spend taxpayer money. And if it's about entertainment, the emerald doesn't have to be real. It could be made of glass. This is so much worse than the Piantas and Tanukis hoarding the shine sprites. How would she think this is not tempting Eggman to come and kill her? He'd just go fire a missile at her, nuke the place, and take the emerald from its ruins. It's not like brainwashing or memory manipulation is involved here. It's not like most people don't even know what that emerald is. At least I assume she and the general public know it's magical, because she's calling it a Chaos Emerald. It'd be impossible to believe the Chaos Emeralds wouldn't be famous for that. They'd have been warred over throughout history. Even before Eggman would try to go after them so many times with his machines for powering his machines. They're not a secret. It's not like it's the king doing this to bait Eggman to a trap somewhere isolated to decimate his robots and armies. My point is, this had no logic to it whatsoever, because it'd obviously be illegal for her to offer this. She would have gotten the police visiting her, not been able to do a fighting tournament. A fighting tournament feels like padding anyways, compared to the heroes doing stuff that's heroic. And this is a story arc. You want them to spend every second getting that story arc done over with. Think about how much padding this adds compared to Sonic simply finding the emerald in a mission 1 issue. This is like multiple issues worth of wasted time. Well, it will be worth it and not be wasted if I get to see a satisfying amount of panels where characters I hate get hit. As long as I see them get hit. And the fights don't end really quickly every time. That's why every other time the series did this tournament, it sucked. I always knew there would be a Sonic the Fighters adaptation from what I heard about the reboot, and having a second game adaptation within a very long first one makes it twice as obvious that the writer is just being lazy and uncreative, using other people's ideas as much as they possibly can. No writer before Flynn would do something this painfully uncreative and time-wasting. There's no way this can make sense, and this is so dumb that it overshadows the entire story before it. And I called it out before, but it bears repeating. More importantly, she's only offering one Chaos Emerald as a prize for the tournament. But I just remembered, in Sonic the Fighters itself, you won an emerald every single fight. So he's being different from the game in a way that's blatantly inferior. And that means it's not worth it, because it just feels arbitrary, but not in universe. It's already very convenient for her that she has one emerald. My point is, she should have been offering all of the other emeralds as prizes too, if she was going to be written to do this. Having a game based around winning all the emeralds be unfairly reduced to just a one emerald tournament is a subtle kicker that makes this the most obvious padding arc in the history of the franchise. Practically every tournament in the series has been poorly written. In Sonic Boom, Tails never would have been allowed to enter the robot competition because it was unfair to everybody else. And every competitor was beaten in one hit, like in Sonic X's tournament, which kinda stunted the whole appeal of the arc. For some reason I'm assuming that won't happen, and the characters will get hit a decent amount of times, because that'd be common sense to write. So I'm actually looking forward to this arc, if only so I could see the characters I have grudges against get pummeled. But the art needs to actually show the impact for that. And I just know I'll run into a bunch of plot holes, like characters winning against characters who would obviously mop the floor with them, and characters being way too incompetent to be believable. Fortunately, reality ensues at first, because Eggman wants to invade every one of Breezy's casinos, carpet bomb every property she owns, and launch a missile at every media satellite she has. This would be an epic villain moment for Eggman the Tyrant. But it makes me sad to think that he somehow won't do this because he's written by a control freak writer who only writes the characters to be idiots to force the plot to go how he wants. After all, this whole tournament arc is going to happen. And I know it wouldn't have progressed to that point if Eggman did carry out those threats. And he would carry out these threats. There is no question. What, is Orvat gonna sweet talk him? Sadie and Robotnik wouldn't be put in this position. Coconut tells Breezy that Eggman's on line 1. Apparently, 1, Eggman can just call Breezy herself up whenever he wants, even though she's running a huge media network, and you'd think everyone would be calling her, so I guess he used hacking to find her number, or threaten someone. I guess Coconuts had answered the phone for her, and Eggman only yelled at him. And somehow, Breezy sighs at Eggman calling her to threaten her, instead of being terrified from knowing what a huge threat he is. Why was she stupid enough to do this? She would be getting herself killed. I don't even know why Eggman's waiting before carrying out these threats. Why waste his breath? He's just giving her a warning. He's talking as if he just now found out that the emerald's being offered as a prize. So I guess when we saw him tell Fang about that emerald, it was a flash forward scene taking place after this. At least it makes sense that these guys would go on to work for Breezy instead of Eggman, because in OSTH... Wait, never mind. She still called Grounder an idiot for screwing up a trap. Was she physically abusive to them like Eggman though? I guess we're supposed to assume that Eggman fired them for their incompetence, naturally, and Breezy's a better boss. And they miraculously escaped Eggman's attempts to scrap them to reuse their metal, instead of somehow letting them leave. The main minions in an entire continuity are suddenly not working for Eggman anymore. If Flynn cared about them enough, you'd think this would be explained right away. This would be the focus of an entire plot. AOSCH wouldn't just not explain this. Breezy somehow thinks Eggman will do jack squat to her. She says that his forces are spread thin, containing the global crisis, and anything he could scrape together wouldn't make it past her defenses. I was thinking earlier that maybe she has a force field generator protecting where she is now. Can the SSS squad make that? Really? I guess if they can make traps, they can engineer a lot of things. She would have to have force field generators to protect her house, every single casino, and all of her satellites all at the same time from Eggman's missiles. And spoiler alert, not once do you see a force field anywhere near Breezy's property. Not once do you hear about a force field generator. At the end of this arc, there's going to be a point where if she had a force field generator, the bad guy wouldn't be able to escape. So she doesn't have a force field. Just nuke her. Even if he couldn't break past her defenses, he doesn't really have to shoot her property to manipulate her. Eggman or Gun would start firing missiles or lasers just outside her defenses. That would cause a panic. Eggman could resort to terrorism, destroying a whole bunch of places outside Breezy's defenses and arresting random people and publicly blame it on her. Tell her on the news, Breezy, get me the emerald or I'm destroying 10 cities at once. I say 10 because the heroes can't defend that many at once. And I decided not to specify because then they'd know which cities to protect. He's not above any of this. This would be the obvious thing for him to do because if she's in the media, she has to give the public what they want. If they hated her, they'd be too disgusted to watch her stuff. So she can't just care about herself and what she wants. So a scared and angry public would force her to change plans. Yeah, they'd hate Eggman for it too, but they're used to bad things happening because of him. She'd still be blamed for provoking him into causing more trouble than he already does. There's no way she'd ever have a leg up over Eggman. It's not like she's a wizard who's been a very threatening major villain with tons of plans before this point, so that we could get used to the idea that she's more powerful than Eggman. She's being portrayed as a badass villain smarter than Eggman, which could be cool in theory. But since when is she like that? In AOSTH, Eggman effortlessly took her apart in their second episode to find out why she helped Sonic. Obviously that established that she's supposed to be seen as not a bigger threat and villain than Eggman. How could Breezy have such great defenses? She should have been written to say, you know, the defenses that your own robot sidekicks built for me. The force field. She could have explained that, since I wouldn't normally imagine someone with her job to have defenses. Like, I guess it's just taken for granted because if she's got Eggman's robots working for her, why wouldn't she make them have a security system for her casino just in case Eggman decides to be a random jerk and target her for no reason? And what the fuck? Why is she saying that Eggman loves his creations and hates to see robot-on-robot violence? She's not talking to Tails. Well, that would explain why Scratch, Grounder, and Coconuts are still alive. Logically, you'd have sent robots after them to scrap them by now. You'd think you would have programmed them to not argue and hit each other anymore. My point is, Tails loves whatever he engineers, but Eggman is the guy who smacked Deco and Boko with hammers to make a point, and fired them in one story, and had like half an hour's worth of insults for Scratch and Grounder combined, constantly abused them. And even in Sonic Unleashed, he may not have torn apart Ergo, but he still slapped him. Somehow, Eggman doesn't contradict her statement. So, are we supposed to believe her? Eggman says he won't offload any more of his old Badnik stock on Breezy anymore if she doesn't give him the emerald. Why would he have ever offloaded any Badnik stock instead of having it dismantled so that its metal could be reused for other things? How much money is he wasting instead of reusing metal? Idiot! And what even caused him to decide to start offloading them on her? What makes her so special? It's not like she's his daughter. Is she a subplot? She says that she rescues those poor robots, even though she's a sociopath, so why is she saying poor robots all of a sudden? So, are they offloaded to her? Or do they come to her by themselves willingly? Or does she just steal them from Eggman, which would be rescued? Why would he say something that both of them know isn't true? That's an ineffective threat. Eggman is told that he'd lose out on one of his most lucrative exports. Exports? What, does she pay him for the robots that he's not scrapping? I guess she thinks paying him for slave labor she can get away with in a world with no robot rights is worth the money she'd spend because she saved money on real employee wages. You'd think she'd be really controversial for relying on slave labor instead of providing jobs. Not to mention relying on Eggman's robots. So people would obviously discriminate against them. Why doesn't Eggman just scrap them? Eggman could get money whenever he wants. In AOSCH, he looted entire villages. Now this is an AOSCH character, so he could do the same thing again. Isn't it obvious that he can just make up for whatever money he missed out on by robbing a bank with missiles? What made him think offloading them to anybody and giving them money was a good idea? Why would he give a robot his money? Why was she even programmed to be capable of bossing him around and not doing what he wants? Even with free will to build traps and talk to Sonic properly, she'd still have an obedience to Eggman program like Mecha Sally and Metal Sonic. Breezy says Eggman can't pay her enough for the emerald. I guess she said bread and circuses based on the context, since she goes on to say that people will pay out the nose for the entertainment of a fighting tournament when the world is in a crisis. Okay, so who's paying? Do you have to pay to enter the roster? Won't only rich people be paying her and that would limit the amount of money she'd get? Otherwise, she wouldn't be saying they will pay out the nose. The poor won't be able to do that. What's even the admission fee for this tournament? How could any amount of money she's going to make from the tournament possibly be greater than the amount of money Eggman could give her? She should be written to just say she's making money off pay-per-view. But I can't imagine that pay-per-view would be so expensive that people would pay out the nose, as she says. Even if her defenses could shoot down a nuke, they'd still hit somewhere, and then Breezy could be blamed for the disaster. And Eggman could just keep firing them. I guess the hero dismantles nukes, and that's why it has a nuke's knothole. But he could still use missiles and plasma cannons and send his entire robot army at once to her. Obviously, a Chaos Emerald would be a much higher priority than fighting monsters. So why not? I honestly don't see why he won't do that. How is what his armies and robots are doing more important than getting a surefire emerald? I guess what they're doing is fighting monsters. So why would he care about others than himself so much that he thinks stopping their fighting isn't worth it? The very idea of Eggman offering to be generous and pay his robot for an emerald is so stupid it never happened. Dr. Robotnik is not this weak, ineffectual dormant and could be bested and bossed around like this. Breezy expects me to believe Eggman can't harm her or threaten her, but still hasn't said the words force field. I don't care if that would be an as you know moment. It'd be justified in the story because she'd be bragging about her force fields. Scratch tells Breezy that somebody messed with the roster and swapped out one contender for someone new. So, someone breached her defenses perfectly fine. Eggman could force someone who can turn invisible to breach her defenses, and they could have a bomb in them. They could have a bomb. Eggman could easily avoid this entire arc. She tells him to change it back, and he says that she might want to see who's at it first. Breezy says never mind, because he'll make for a much better show. Why hadn't she already hung up on Eggman earlier? Well, I like that Coconut satisfyingly smirked before hanging up on Eggman. especially after AOSCH. But a vague, my defenses is not enough to keep me from being completely incredulous that she's invincible to Eggman, the main villain who can build anything. This is the guy who, in RG, destroyed a force field effortlessly by having his robots fire lasers at a certain part of it, which was all he had to do to steal the Master Emerald. I'm pretty sure he could overcome her defenses. They were just overcame here, and he's not an idiot, so this is forced. Eggman says to call Fang, and we see Fang being called by Eggman in Bingo Highway. He tells Fang to disable Casino Park's defenses after they lose the tournament. So at least he's smart enough to plan ahead in case they lose. Fang thinks he can get away with asking for more money for the Sabotage job. Surprisingly, instead of Eggman responding by threatening to blow him up, which he could if he put bombs in him like his sub-bosses in Archie just fine, instead he calls up Metal Sonic because he prefers dealing with robots over people. It's even more out of character for him to make the OSCH robots have free will then. And I don't know why. Oh, Metal Sonic explains that the reason he's threatening an old man is that he's found a target of interest concerning the Gaia temples. So, what was this bullshit rumor again about Metal Sonic's not allowed to talk? Because it seems to me like Flynn can write whatever he wants here. And he said he had even more creative control over IDW. So why'd he change his mind? Because Metal Sonic being able to talk already makes him a better character. Because now he's explaining himself. This would be a frustrating panel otherwise, because he'd just be doing a dickish thing for no reason just because he's Metal Sonic. He's told to go somewhere immediately. I have a question. How did he find his target of interest? How does he know he's a target of interest? How did he even know where to start? Does he just go around threatening literally everyone he bumps into? Wouldn't Gunn have had him killed by Shadow by now if he was taking that long? How many people would he have killed? Because they'd say, I don't know anything about the Gaia temples. What are the chances he'd have gone to this specific town where there's a Gaia temple just to, what, overhear something that give him a clue? Why is it tradition to not warn the others? Everyone would know where the Gaia temples are. It's forced that Sonic isn't mad at Breezy at all for trying to get him and Tails killed, while Amy is. He's known for being carefree, but there's a limit. There's a reason he had a grudge against, say, Fiona. This person basically betrayed him too. She wouldn't have much reason to be angry if Sonic told her that she started to like him like an AOSCH and freed him from the trap. Otherwise, she'd still work for Eggman. We never saw her being mistreated by Eggman, so she has no reason to not work for him anymore. Oh, the fighting tournament's on pay-per-view. Breezy says paid programming orders tripled since it was announced that Sonic, Amy, and Tails would be competing. That's how she's getting money from so many people. Why won't those people just demand her to give them the emerald and hold the tournament anyways? The prize could be something other than an emerald, like a cash prize. The heroes could want it to donate to charity. Her prize could be a fake emerald to lure the heroes here. She could explain herself to Gunn and the cops if they go to arrest her then. She could explain herself to Eggman. Then he'd understand, and actually yeah, it'd be smarter if she just lied to Eggman that's not a real emerald. And if she's greedy, and that's all, why does she give the heroes unlimited trips to the buffet? She casually encourages them to gamble with chips. Tails is 8 years old, and no one questions this. And she tells them common sense rules. And since Sonic doesn't want to fight at night, he threatens to leave all casually with a smile. And so Breezy decides to agree to let him only fight during the day. I love that he got the better of her. But why? Why would she even consider having any fights during the night? Who does that? Not as many people would be awake at night, so obviously the views would be lower. Does she ever venture outside of her defenses? Does she ever go grocery shopping? I guess she'd hire robots to shop for her. But if she so much as tries to take a walk on the beach, do anything social whatsoever beyond her casinos now, Eggman would be able to attack her. She'd have to stay cooped up in a safe place her whole life from now on to realistically avoid his revenge. Not to mention law enforcement, if that's why she's not getting arrested. I guess she's fine with all that. What an idiot. Why haven't we seen Breezy's defenses? If we saw them in action, instantly from the start of the issue, by the Sky Patrol attacking, I wouldn't be so furious with the story. This isn't a believable story. Not when it's even possible to rant about its lack of believability for several paragraphs. It's not a story that doesn't break your willing suspension of disbelief. Flynn thinks he magically outsmarted us and made the story make sense just because she said my defenses. But that's too easy. I'm not shown why that's supposed to fill in this plot hole. You think there'd be 2 panels of her taking down the force field so that Sonic can meet with her. I'm used to Eggman as someone with defenses. Show her robots pressing buttons and shooting missiles down. They still send explosions large enough to damage stuff beyond the force fields. There's no consequences. That's it, I've lost interest. Honey the cat, an unused character from Sonic the Fighter, is for a reason, because she's an animal version of a fighter from outside the Sonic series. Somehow is competing in the tournament, when she's just a fashion designer. She'd get pummeled. And no one points this out. No one points out how forced it is that she's here instead of just buying a commercial. And a huge amount of time is wasted with Amy gushing over her because she's a girl. And she promises to give the emerald to them if she wins at least. Ugh. Well, I'm glad she's being used in an actual story finally. Get to the fighting already! I need a break. It's hard to motivate myself to read all of her panels, but I'll have to try. It's just that I didn't need all of those panels for this. Amy saying that she loves one of the dresses Honey designed doesn't mean it makes sense that she wears almost nothing but that red dress. She changed outfits all the time in Fleetway, and even in Sonic X, we saw her wear a few new outfits. So there's no rule against her changing outfits. And obviously if the writer thought to lampshade this, he should have realized it was more creative, and therefore more impressive and visually pleasing, and logical, to have Amy wear more than just one dress all the time. He has to know we'd still recognize her, right? He thought to lampshade this, but didn't realize it was stupid? This isn't believable because anybody would get sick of wearing the same dress every day. And I know it doesn't have to be this way. Didn't Sonic Rivals have a ton of alternate costumes for the characters? Why did Honey take so long to relaunch the dress as the Rose Collection? Wouldn't she have known it was associated with Amy a long time ago? I guess in the Reboot universe, Amy took until recently to start wearing that dress. It's hard to believe a dress clearly from the 60s would be modern fashion that a fashion designer just designed for everybody. But this is another universe from Earth. Obviously, her hairstyle and dress has to be in fashion in the Sonic universe. Or else, at least one person would have insulted her for how outdated she looked. Well, at least Honey is acting nice. She's not truly an original character by Flynn though. She was in Sonic the Fighters' code. I think she was playable in a re-release of Sonic the Fighters. But it could have interpreted her as an asshole if he felt like it. So, good. She's not annoying me, technically. In context, she's a gigantic waste of comic space. Out of context, she's a ray of sunshine and positivity, being relatively passionate about something she cares about. I'd rather new characters be like this than be one-dimensional jerks if they're gonna be one-note like this. Honey tries to explain that she's in a fighting tournament for self-promotion. So, she's still gonna get beaten up. How is a fighting tournament even legal considering that? Well, MMA fighting tournaments are a thing, so it's not unrealistic. But this place is allowing even people who aren't trained fighters to compete. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen, isn't it? This place better be willing to pay for people's medical bills. I hope they have free healthcare on Mobius. Honey shakes Tails' hand, offering him the emerald, and then mood swings from doing the right thing to only doing it for something in return. She demands the Freedom Fighters to promote her next line of fashion. If the comic's not going to have them accessorized because it's insistent on them only wearing what they normally do, when even the games aren't always like that, this will obviously have no consequences, so there's no tension here. Especially since I trust her to have good-looking fashion for them, otherwise she'd be fired by now for being such an idiot. It's in character for Tails to be nervous about this, it makes him really sympathetic. Right now I'm thinking about a picture I saw in DeviantArt. Then Fang tells Bean and Bark to hide from the heroes, being genre savvy enough to assume he'll lose to the heroes in a fight. Why aren't we just skipping to the fight? What are his priorities? This is an action series. Bean is stopped from calling Eggman for Plan B, despite saying he's gonna find out about the heroes anyways, because Fang says by then they'll be fighting and completing the job. He tells him to think about their professional pride. So, he wants to be paid twice. Okay, I can't help but smile at Bean saying, while looking really happy, "We still have that?" And Fang telling him to shut up. Then, instead of a fight, We cut to Ezio calling Vector for his first report. Why report? He only has enough change for 1 minute, even though he was sent there with $5 in quarters. So I guess he has a gambling problem. Sure, it's convenient that there's any sort of payphones at all here in a world with free-willed robots in it. Everyone would be assumed to have cell phones. Payphones still exist today, but they wouldn't be plentiful enough that Breezy would waste money on them here. Especially when she's greedy. So this whole scene never should have happened. And yeah, Ezio is a serious, only sane man. He wouldn't have gambled at all. There's a reason I never imagined any of the main Sonic heroes to be incompetent idiots. If they were that way, Eggman would have killed them by now. Predictably, he's calling to tell Vector that the hooligans and heroes have entered the tournament. Why though? And he plans on helping the freedom fighters, even though the rules clearly state that no outside help is allowed, and he should know he'd get in trouble. He says that since he didn't know they'd arrive, he snuck one more friendly face into the roster. And then out of nowhere we see Chip. Well, it is nice to see him really positive and appreciating the lights and sounds and smells. I like that he mentions all of those instead of just mentioning the buffet. His obsession with food is extremely toned down, but I remember his voice from Unleashed here, and I don't like his design here. Of course, those are minor complaints compared to the flaw of a character being unlikable. He's a saint compared to some characters. At least he's nice. It makes no sense for him to be in the fighting tournament. I hope he gets pummeled for his bad voice in Unleashed. And you would expect to see that from a writer who has tons of awful things happen to main characters. He put him in Vector's mouth. But since I'm getting my hopes up, and I'm always punished for that with Flynn, I'm guessing he'll think that getting Chip hit in a fight would be too mean-spirited. Then he looks sad and tells Knuckles that here he is going on and on when he should be helping him look for the Master Emerald shard. He hasn't found them already? What? Why in the world would there be any shards here? I assumed the Master Emerald shards would all be in Pumpkin Hill, and even then, only because of something I had heard. That could be in IDW for all I know. It makes the most sense for the shards to appear in Angel Island exclusively, to protect them as best as possible. The point is, I assumed he would have used his radar to find all the shards as soon as possible. Him even coming here just feels arbitrary. How many issues has it been since the emerald was shattered? It's not impossible that a shard would teleport here, if apparently they teleport to a random part of the planet just like emeralds. But it is extremely unlikely considering how many other places they could have gone. Good thing for Knuckles that they're unable to teleport to the bottom of the ocean, or inside of a volcano. Somehow, despite Mobius's geography changing over millennia, the Emerald Shards magically know which parts of it not to teleport to, or else they'd never get recovered by Knuckles. They magically don't telefrag themselves into walls or the many other physical objects. There's a reason I assumed Knuckles wouldn't be a part of this tournament. This just barely makes sense. He obviously didn't need to be a part of this plot. Oh, right. Well, he was in Sonic the Fighters, but he doesn't have to be here. He needs as many characters at once here to drag out the basic plot as long as possible. I guess he trusted Relic to guard the Emerald again, so she's busy not being in front of it right now. How has it not gotten stolen already? Well, everyone tends to ignore it. This actually made more sense in Sonic X. Knuckles was scouted to join the tournament because people around him accused him of being too scared to join the fighting. Sure, he's here because it's an extension of his Master Emerald guardian duties because he's trying to find one of the shards. So I do prefer this excuse for him being here. But it's extremely unlikely that one of the shards would have ended up here. And in Sonic X, the only person willing to steal the Master Emerald would have been lured to the tournament by the Chaos Emerald prize anyways. So Knuckles wouldn't have to be guardian during the tournament anyways. So it didn't matter that he wasn't paying attention to his duties. This issue is by Ian Flynn, and shockingly, doesn't have a single fight in it, and is just about introducing the heroes to the fighting tournament. They just go to a casino. That's it! And there's 2 entire scenes that try to explain away how illogical it is that Breezy can get away with offering an emerald as a prize, and the heroes and Eggman can't do the simple, logical solution to get the emerald. Maybe don't write a plot that requires this much justification. My defenses are just 2 measly words, and we aren't shown how superhuman amazing those defenses are to justify Eggman not killing her. We could have seen 2 panels of him firing missiles, and then getting blocked by a force field. Right at the start of the story. You don't want to risk the audience being mad the whole time. Since when can the AOSCH robots make force fields? Rhoda should be the leader of the freedom fighters, not Sally, who thinks stealing an emerald someone's not allowed to have, and is even more not allowed to offer it as a prize, is acting above the law and would get the heroes branded as criminals, when she should know that everyone would be okay with it. Everyone would get mad at Breezy for hoarding an emerald that clearly is needed to put the planet back together. Eggman would just put out a public message addressing Breezy and threaten to destroy buildings and stuff, and keep doing it until she gives him the emerald. He'd go in the news and tell her, "Breezy, give me the emerald or I'll destroy 10 random cities." He could do so to show the world that he's not just threatening her. He doesn't even have to get past her undefined defenses. The public would pressure her into giving him the emerald. Defenses doesn't explain why this arc is happening. The scene tried to make her look smarter than Eggman. But realistically, if she was smarter, she'd have lied to him that it was a fake emerald. Even without Eggman doing that, the general public should be demanding Breezy to just hand the emerald over to Sonic already. She can offer a different prize. Hell, she could say that if they simply agree to compete in the first place, she'll give them the emerald. She could contact them privately and say that. So she isn't forced to keep it with her to make money off the heroes. She already got what she wanted. Lots of people are gonna tune in because the heroes are in the tournament. She could offer them money in exchange for the tournament as an appeal to greed. She could give Sonic the emerald and tell the heroes they aren't allowed to get out of the tournament because they already became part of the roster and those are the rules. Since apparently they're all about following rules, so she could appeal to honor. She could tell them they'd be letting people down, appealing to guilt. And she could say that Eggman's gonna attack this place trying to get the emerald, so they'd have to stick around anyways to protect her Coliseum, appealing to pity. This could have made sense. Except not, because obviously she'd become public enemy number 1 just from offering an emerald as a prize instead of giving it to Sonic, no strings attached. And Gunn would demand her arrest. They'd fire her from her job, blacklist her entirely. And the worst part of the story is that there wasn't a single time where a character got satisfyingly hit. Not a single fight to make up for all that frustrating padding. 1 emerald? Really? Why not multiple at least? There's no reason why she couldn't have offered the rest of the emeralds. 1 emerald is agonizing padding for an arc that'll stretch out for so many issues, for a comic that's almost about to end. I'm willing to bet that the reboot will end without even a single Gaia Temple being activated. It's like the writer didn't actually care about the Unleashed adaptation of the comic. It's just there as a set piece, a framing device. But that's a mistake because it just makes people impatient for it to be over because the plot of the game was over quickly. Here's what it could have done instead. Have the heroes chase a major villain around the world, like Ixis or Eggman. That could be the excuse for world building. They can still look for Chaos Emeralds, and the tension could be that Eggman wants it for a Doomsday device. They don't need this Gaia Temple activation or the planet being shattered, which made no difference in sense. And the monsters could be replaced with robots with no change to the stories. Or they could be coming out of a portal to another dimension, like a hell portal. That would keep the charm of having bad guys surround a fight that aren't robots without using Unleashed. Sonic could still take advantage of his Werehog abilities without it being an Unleashed adaptation, because you could see Eggman blast him with the Werehog ray. Just have the whole comic be episodic.